is trying to take my job. He's been up here 14 times already. He's the founder and CEO of Kanuka, and they're going to talk very strategically, so get your questions ready, about how to actually go through M&A process. Or do you want them? No.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, well, there's going to be another person that comes up on stage named Shaun Neff. Shaun, can you join us, please? While he's coming up, so the purpose of this, and I think it's really important, especially if you're a founder, if you have small brands, or a new brand, I'm sorry, how do you scale it to an exit? So I'm in the process right now, just to give a little context. Kanuka is a combination of cannabis and Manuka honey, skincare line. It's really clean beauty for the canna curious. We are in the scaling mode, but we've never experienced an exit. So I plan on really digging deep, picking Shaun, the brand whisperer's brain, as much as possible to figure out what is the juice that takes you to the next level, scale, to then ultimately exit or build a team. So to get things started, Shaun, I would love for you to explain who you are and your background, starting with Neff Headwear, and then some of the amazing things and brands you're working on right now.
Okay. Hola. Yeah, so first brand, I grew up in California at a young age, very intrigued with branding, what it meant to be a consumer, buy something, rock a logo on my chest, and what it meant. First company I started was as a freshman in college. I put my last name on some t-shirts and ran around and was just slanging t-shirts out of my backpack, found a little niche in headwear. True story, went to a 99-cent store and bought the most ghetto headbands and beanies you've ever seen and wrote my last name on it. And some of the biggest athletes in the world, I ended up locking down initially, some of the biggest surf, skate, snow kids in the world, and then we moved into collabs with Snoop and Lil Wayne and Cudi and Kevin Durant and Scarlett Johansson, and kind of built a youth culture brand working with relevant people. We got that business rocking, doing over 100 million a year in revenue, and I ended up selling that company about 5 years ago, maybe now. And throughout the time, did some advising, consulting. Sony Electronics, Target hired me. I used to be Sean White, Massimo, and Cherokee was their apparel business. Then I came in and helped them with art class and Cat and Jack, which was fun. The other brand I got behind about 7 years ago, I got a phone call from a brand at the time that was very small and needed some capital. And that brand was Sunbum. So I ended up funding the company at that time, became the second largest shareholder, and we just sold that company like 6 or 7 weeks ago to SC Johnson, which was awesome. And have a merch business. We do like Sisters for James Charles and Liza Koshy, Lily Singh, a bunch of influencers. And then my focus now, and then I'll be quiet, is Beach House Group. So Beach House Group is a brand incubator. Really, we've launched 4 businesses in the last year. The first one was called Base with Shay Mitchell, kind of a lifestyle travel brand. The second one was Moon Oral Care. I just thought the oral care aisle was the ugliest thing in the store. So we kind of tried to reflip that, and no one's more on the go than Kendall Jenner. So it made sense for her to kind of be a partner in the business. And then over the last 30 days, we launched Millie Bobby Brown's beauty company, Florence by Mills. That was fun. I met her when she was 13. Now she's the old age of 15. And then the last brand was with Tracy Ellis Ross. So we just launched Pattern. So really at Beach House is where most of my focus is now, and just really getting these brands up and running. And Beach House it's been a crazy year.
I would say so. I'm going to take a step back. Neff Headwear days. So I feel like we skipped over some important steps. So I feel like you were ahead of the influencer game before there was an influencer game. What made you think like, hey, I'm going to throw Neff on my toboggan or beanie? I'm from Ohio, so I say toboggan. and want to just get this in the right people's hands? And then how did you actually execute on that? Because I think the important thing in here, it's easy to say like, oh, this is what this brand does, but as someone who would love to start working with influencers in a big, big way, how do you, like, what's that step?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I first started the brand, I'm a freshman in college. I knew no one, had no money. I knew that there would be influence, right? So I started with the dopest skate kid in town, the DJ that was the rad DJ throwing college parties. It was the most pinnacle stop sign, right? Where like everyone was driving in and out, right? I'd hit my sticker on. So for me, it started very small, with just influential people in small areas where I knew I was going after this certain demo. So I kind of started giving out product to like these kids, and I met pro athletes, and I was like, whoa, I know what this little kid, this kid did for me who was killing the skate park, and he had all the kids that looked up to him, which was small, like 8 people, but those 8 people went and bought a hat because he was rocking a hat. So then hanging out with these pro athletes, I was trying to get them to rock, a hat, knowing that their audience is a little bit bigger. And then I kept going, and then it went from, what the snowboarders did, then it went to what Snoop did, and then it went to what Kevin, so you go through, and for me, I always knew people of influence is, in my opinion, everything. That's like brand 101. It's Nike, Jordan, it's Pepsi's halftime show. Like, for me, I'm a massive fan of just people that can light stuff on fire, and I think that's our model at Beach House now. And now it's a little bit unique because now I've built and sold several companies and have a lot of friends. So obviously I've got a little bit of a tainted access to go out and light these things on fire. But if you're just starting, I think it's just finding that small little influential person or an influential moment that kind of stands for your brand, that represents it authentically, and how can you work a deal with them. I mean, even at Beach House, all of our partners have equity in our company, right? And it's shared alignment. And we launched 4 brands, but I've met with hundreds of the biggest talent in the world over the last 2 years to figure out who's going to really work, who converts, and who knows that this is a business. I just don't want to photo shoot a year and pop into your Instagram. We got to work together. So there's a lot of things on the influencer thing.
You obviously have figured out what works. Jumping a little bit forward to Sunbum, what's unique about Shaun, from my perspective, and I'm sure you all agree, is not only an entrepreneur and started brands, but now he's an investor, and then now he can create. As your involvement in Sunbum, at least at the beginning, more on the investor side. So what was it that Sunbum had that drew you to them? And I think this is important, understanding like the story. Why is the story important if you're raising money? Maybe you can shed some light on like why that's important and what draw you to them.
Yeah, the crazy true story of Sunbum was a kid that I went to college with was living in Florida, and one of the original guys that was a part of the brand lived near him, and my buddy had a Neff sticker on his car, and literally they started talking about Neff, and he's like, oh, I know Shaun. So my buddy called me and said, hey, there's these guys, that have a sun care business, and they would love to talk to you. So I did my friend a favor, which was a good one for me and him. But, and it was just, sunscreen was interesting, right? The litmus test for me when I first came across Sunbum was, is there a brand today in this market where someone would take a logo and put it on their car or on their surfboard, right? So Banana Boat, Hawaiian Tropic, Neutrogena, and I was like, gosh, there's not like a cool brand that has lifestyle right now in this space. So for me, that's what originally intrigued me about Sunbum. And it was funny, the true story was, I knew nothing about the company, obviously. It was like 7 years ago, so it was a small company, but my wife had randomly, when we were in Florida, bought some of the stuff. And I was like riffing with her, like, this Sunbum thing, and I didn't know. And she's like, I actually bought that, and it smelled good. So that helped. That's the true story.
I think that's a perfect segue, because you identified a gap in the market, right? And you wanted to make it cool and put that logo on it. What are those gaps that you saw for Moon, for example, or Millie Bobby Brown's brand, Florence by Millie, or Pattern? And do you see any new gaps? Especially, maybe you can relate it to the cannabis space too, CBD, just because I would say 80% of the brands here
There's
are
no
probably
CBD brands right now,
so maybe
right?
we can like pull it all together with that.
Yeah, so look, I always think there's space in every industry, every aisle, every product. Like, I'm just a fan of that. Sure, there's like CBD's a massive trend. There's going to be some hero winners, and it's a product with real benefit, and there's a lot of excitement around that. And I mean, I just love this guy. He's such a nice guy. If you guys don't know Michael, smart guy, and for him, right, what they've done at Kanuka is incredible, right? They killer packaging. It's got a smart story, efficacious product. So for me, I think, in my opinion, you can take any category and make it a little bit different. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to come out with some like, whoa, like this is how lipstick is now. And it's like, you know, this big unveil like the new iPhone. It's more like tweak it a little bit. What's your marketing story? You know, what's the product benefit that sets you apart? And my thing is always, my litmus test is always, if I'm going to sit with a buyer, and that buyer, and I'm going to be like, hey, here's the new brand. If they can think of 2 or 3 other things that they already have on their shelf that's kind of similar, you're dead in the water. Because in essence, if your brand's going to pop at retail or D2C, you have to give them something that doesn't exist or really has a product differentiator that is meaningful, because you're just trying to replace someone on the shelf. So I know for us, like Moon, it wasn't just me hanging out in the aisle for like an hour or two going like, there's definitely something needs to look better here. It's like the big blue and green bottles and like the red, white, and blue paste, and it's just like, was not appealing to me visually. But then beyond that, it was like oral care was something always that you like hide. Like if friends are coming over, you got like your ugly oral care and you kind of like hide it. But I'm going like, yo, let's make something that looks good next to a Chanel bottle or a YSL perfume. And so that was kind of the ideation of Moon, but then, which was kind of interesting. But then the more interesting part was the beauty regimen's so massive. And the oral care routine was never in the conversation of beauty. So it was like, wow, let's talk about oral beauty. What does oral beauty mean? And like when those two things lined up, it became very appealing. We locked in Ulta. I mean, pre-Kendall, we locked in Ulta, full rollout, Target, full rollout, Boots, full rollout. So we had probably 5,000 locations teed up before we locked in the brand. And then it doesn't hurt when Kendall Jenner talks about it.
Not at all. Quick panel. I have tons of questions. Truly, I could ask Shaun, but I want to open up to the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Because right now is the perfect time to pick his brain.
Hi there. So I am on my 4th company, and I've got like some big personalities, pseudo kind of celebrities in my circle. And so as the entrepreneur in the group, they'll ask like, well, you know, I think about launching this and I want to do this. And some of them have big enough followings to do that and to really put momentum behind it. But some of them like don't. Like 60,000 followers maybe isn't enough that you want to put $100,000 behind this company. So, Shaun, do you have like a litmus test of like how many followers or what kind of awareness someone like a figure like that needs to have before they're a face that could sustain a brand launch, or there's someone that you would want to hire as a brand to help promote your brand launch?
Yeah, so my opinion is, like the world of influencers, celebrities, artists, in my opinion, there's only like a dozen or 20 that I think can build real meaningful business that could sell for 500 million plus, right? I think it's a very small crew. So I think the idea of having someone that the brand is based on a personality, they've got to be pretty unicornish, right? Like I look at Millie Bobby Brown, and she's a very close friend now, but she's a unicorn. Like youngest girl on the Times 100 list, UNICEF ambassador. Like she just loves everyone. It's authentic, it's true. She was put in a makeup chair when she was 10 years old with her head shaved, right? She wasn't trying to be. So you kind of have to really find what they can offer. So I think if it's a brand built on a personality, which like Florence is with Millie, or what Kylie did with Kylie Cosmetics, I think it's a very small crew that can actually do that. But even those kind of brands, the macro, micro influencers are still very valuable, right? I mean, a lot of the best converting, talent right now is like sub 1 million, right? And someone that's got 1 million followers that gets like 130,000 likes on a photo, I mean, they'll convert more than someone that's got 20 million that gets 100,000 likes. So it's kind of a science and a game, looking at engagement, comments, like, is it authentic? So, I think, and look, I think any amount of influence is great. I don't think there's a real litmus. I know for me in Beach House, it's like Tracy Ellis Ross, Millie Bobby Brown, Kendall Jenner. We're trying to find people that are authentic to a space, but also we're going into a space that we think if we didn't have Tracy Ellis Ross, who's the perfect person in the world for the market that she has been trying to find the right product for forever that didn't exist, there was still a need in that market. There was still a brand. Tracy, as a customer, was still left out there saying, I haven't found solutions. So it's not just take this amazing influencer and good luck launching a brand. A lot of things have to align for any company to be successful.
Would you agree with me saying that you still have to have an effective product? Like, you got to have a great product first and foremost, especially in the early stages. If you don't have the brand, if you have $100,000 or $50,000, whatever that is, I personally would invest all of it into product development until it is actually an effective product, and then go and find that perfect face.
Agreed.
Oh. Hi there. I have a question about, can you talk about the difference between, bringing in someone like Millie Bobby Brown, her being a owner, part owner of this company, versus, bringing on an athlete or a model for an advertising campaign and working with different people with your brand?
Like, what's the difference?
Yes.
Yeah. I think if you're bringing someone on as a partner in the company, the alignment has to be there. It's like, you got to work hard. We got to fight. You're showing up. You're hopping on a plane. Like, you're talking about the brand every day. Like, if someone's going to be on the cap table with you and they're going to be a partner, like, you need to look at yourself and go, okay, like, if I'm going to build this company, I got to be all in and I got to hustle. And if that partner doesn't share the same vision, is going to work really hard and not just leverage their social media power, but, give insights into the brand, insights into the market. That's what's really important. So I think that's the main difference, because if you're just working out an ad campaign or launching something spring 2020, you can lock in 20 influencers, figure out what they're saying and let them do their thing. And then when that moment's over, it's over. So I think the research and the homework, obviously, if you're going to bring them on as a partner, has to be, and it's not just size. Like Shay Mitchell, a lot of people know Shay Mitchell, but she was so authentic to travel. She's been doing Shaycations for years. So like the power of her authenticity and her desire to do that in this market, if I would have signed someone that has 150 million followers, the brand would have not done half as good as Shay's did.
20 minutes goes by very fast, everybody, doesn't it? It does. I could pick his brain for days. So that was it for everybody. But great panel. Shaun, thank you for sharing all of that. Hope you guys all enjoyed.